Hey y'all, I'm Carrie,
I'm Mama.
and this is Monstrous, where the stories are strange, the shadows run deep, and the tea is always a little dark. Listener discretion is advised. Monstrous covers true crime, violence, and other unsettling subject matter that may be difficult for some listeners. Hey y'all, welcome back. So we know we had some recording issues with last week's main episode, and we kind of left you hanging. We really appreciate your patience. Like we said on Monday, we wanted to give you something a little extra to go along with that Alaskan Triangle episode. So, for your bonus this week, and I've been dying to cover this one, I've just kind of been waiting for the right time. And there's no time like the present. So, before I jump into what we're going to do for this bonus episode, I have a quick shout out to our listeners in Australia. I need your help settling something that's important. So I keep seeing this thing on TikTok called fairy bread. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I hadn't either until I seen it on TikTok. And from what I can tell, it's bread, butter, and then those little round sprinkles. Well, what we would call sprinkles. Uh I think you in Australia call them hundreds and thousands. Honestly, I don't think they're any different, but I very obviously could be wrong. Could be something totally different. So here's the thing, okay? There seems to be some serious debate on how you actually make this. Yep, I've seen people make it on like sourdough bread, and then other people freak out because you're not supposed to make it on sourdough bread.
Everything's good on sourdough bread.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, is there a specific kind of bread? Does the butter have to be a certain way? Because I've seen some people say you're not putting enough, others are putting too much. Is there a right or wrong method with making fairy bread? And are hundreds and thousands the same thing as our little round sprinkles here in America? Because I want to make this for my boys so they can try something from outside the US, but I want to do it the right way. So if you're from Australia, please tell me, what is the proper way to make fairy bread? And if there even is a correct way, I want to know before I make it and accidentally offend an entire country. Don't want to do that. So shoot me a message, leave a comment, send me an email, let me know how to make it. And then I'm going to make it for my boys and I will let you know what they think because I think they would love it, especially Dax.
He might. I mean,
Because he's the one with the big sweet tooth.
that child eat anything and don't eat him first.
Right. So I think he would like it.
He probably would. What is it, like a breakfast type thing or
I
just a
think it's
snack thing?
that's what I think it's supposed to be like a sweet snack. It looks pretty cool. All the sprinkles, it makes it look pretty. Like I said, from what I've seen, it's butter, bread, and sprinkles. But there's a lot of debate on TikTok how you actually make it. So I want to make sure I do it right and then see if they like it. I feel like Dax will probably really love it.
Yeah, that cool.
Yeah. Logan, he's a little bit more finicky with this food.
You think?
Okay. So, yep, Australian listeners, please let me know. Now, are you ready for our deep dive into one of the most infamous cases in American history?
Let's go for it.
We're going to talk about Lizzie Borden.
Every time I hear that name, that song pops up in my head. And I know it's wrong.
Okay. Fall Rivers, Massachusetts, 1892. A sleepy industrial town in southeastern Massachusetts known for textile mills and family wealth. At 92 Second Street in the modest Victorian home lived the Borden family. And we're going to meet the people that lived in that house. First was Andrew Jackson Borden. He was 69 years old, a wealthy businessman, a banker, and a real estate investor. Known in town as stingy, tight with money, even though he was worth around $500,000 in 1892 money. Today, that is over $15 million.
I want can he adopt me, please?
uh, Mr. Borden was a Quaker. He was known for being cold, distant, and controlling. He refused to install indoor plumbing in the house, even though the neighborhood had it. He kept the doors locked during the day because of a robbery that had happened in June of 1891. During that robbery, cash and jewelry were stolen while Emma, Lizzie, and Bridget were all home. So you can't really blame him.
No,
But on the other side of that, Lizzie had earlier been accused of shoplifting by a local merchant, and she ended up being the family's prime suspect for that home robbery as well. So this made people even more suspicious when the murders happened. Then there's Mr. Borden's wife, Abby Durfee Borden, who was 64. She was Andrew's second wife and Lizzie's stepmother. Abby was charitable, kind, and spent money on churches and poor relief. She was brighter and more outgoing than Andrew was. She and Lizzie had a very strained relationship. Lizzie had resented her stepmother from day one. Now, in April of 1892, a Fall River cloak maker named Hannah Gifford testified that Lizzie had told her that Abby, quote, is a mean old thing. This goes to show Lizzie's resentment towards her stepmother was public knowledge. It was not kept within the home. Then there was Emma Borden, who was 41, and she was Lizzie's older sister. She was quiet, reserved, and close to Lizzie. She was often traveling or away from home, but on the day of the murders, she was back home visiting. Emma had recently been out of town visiting friends in the days before and was away from the house when the killings actually occurred. So she was in town and visiting home, but she was not at home, if that makes sense.
mhm.
Emma returned shortly after hearing the news of the killings. Her absence from the house at the time of the murders gave her a solid alibi. This was why most historians rule her out as a suspect entirely. Her shady testimony during the trial, though, softened Lizzie's image and challenged the prosecution's case against her. Historians suggest that her loyalty to Lizzie may have helped tip the scales towards her acquittal. Lizzie and Emma would then go on to live together in Maplecroft until a rift between them in 1905 left them estranged. Emma did eventually leave Fall River and settle down in Newmarket, New Hampshire. But during the trial, Emma's testimony was crucial. She confirmed that Lizzie was a good person. She said her family was close and she tried to protect her baby sister. And it worked. Lizzie Andrew Borden was born on July 19th, 1860. So she was 32 years old at the time of the murders.
Dang, she's 100 years older than I am.
hmm Most people think that Lizzie was a teenager when the murders happened, but
Now
she
that I
wasn't.
knew.
Yeah, she was 32 years old.
Your age.
hmm Yep. She was unmarried, so she was known as a spinster because this was very unusual for her age in 1892.
Yeah, they usually got married really young.
Oh, yeah. And if you didn't get married by a certain age, you were never getting married. Lizzie was educated. She was well liked in church circles. She was a Sunday school teacher, but she was also known for being proud, cold, and distant. She had a reputation for being unforgiving, all things that were not ladylike in the late 1800s. Then you had Bridget Sullivan, though people called her Maggie. She was 44. She was an Irish immigrant maid who worked for the Bordens. She was the only other person in the house that morning. So 6 people in total lived in the Borden home. And by noon, 2 of them would be dead. So let's now talk about what happened. It was August 4th, 1892, a Thursday. It's a hot, humid summer morning, the kind of heat that makes everything sticky and heavy. Bridget, the maid, was up early. She was washing the outside windows on the second floor. She's been at it since dawn. It's a hot job and she's tired. She goes to her bedroom to rest. Andrew Borden leaves the home around 6 a.m. He's going to do he's going to do his business for the day. Meetings, bank visits, errands, etc. Abby Borden is at home. She's doing her morning chores, cleaning, dusting, preparing for the hot, long day. Lizzie and Emma are home as well. Lizzie claims she's in the barn later that morning, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Around 10 a.m., Andrew returns home. He's tired, hot, and decides he's going to lay on the sofa and take a nap in the downstairs sitting room. Abby is cleaning the guest bedroom upstairs. Bridget is napping in her room after washing the windows. And Lizzie, well, she's somewhere else in the house. At some point between 9 and 9:30 a.m., Abby Borden is attacked. She's in the guest bedroom cleaning. She hears a noise and she turns. Someone, who we don't know who, swings an axe at her. The blow strikes her skull and she's knocked down. But she's not dead. She turns. She's struck again and again and again. She's hit a total of 19 times. Her skull is smashed in, her face unrecognizable. Abby Borden is dead. Her body left in the guest bedroom, cold and unmoving. About 2 hours later, so around 11:15, Andrew Borden is on the sofa, asleep. Someone, that same someone, walks into the sitting room. Andrew wakes up and he sees the hatchet, but it's too late. He's struck, not once, not twice, at least 10 different times.
Somebody was pissed off.
Yeah. His skull is smashed almost beyond recognition. Reports say 10 to 11 blows, others say more. All we know for sure is that there were at least 10 hits with an axe, and Andrew Borden was dead before he could ever scream. Now the house is silent. Two bodies, two different rooms, no signs of a struggle, no overturned furniture, nothing disturbed. Bridget's still napping in her room. She doesn't hear anything. And Lizzie, where is she at? Finally, Bridget hears a scream from downstairs. Lizzie is screaming, quote,
Maggie, come down. Maggie, down quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him.
Bridget runs downstairs. Andrew Borden is lying on the sofa, covered in blood, hacked almost beyond recognition. Police are called. They search the house for an intruder. They find nothing. No signs of forced entry, no feet print, nothing. About half an hour later, a neighbor who had come to comfort Lizzie, Adeline Churchill, goes upstairs to check on Abby. She finds Abby's body in the guest bedroom, cold, killed at least 2 hours before Andrew. Adelaide Churchill was a key witness. She told police that she saw Andrew Borden around 9 a.m. on the morning of the murders, standing by his steps. She also confirmed that Abby had told her earlier that day that she was going to visit someone who was sick. But Lizzie said she saw a note from Abby asking to visit the neighbors, a note that was never found. And Adeline's testimony helped establish the timeline. Abby was alive at 9 a.m., Andrew alive at 9 a.m., but Abby was found dead by 9:30, and Andrew was dead by 11:15. Now that's a very tight window.
Yeah, it is.
And Lizzie was the only person in the house without an alibi during that window. Now, Lizzie tells the police a different story. She says she heard a strange noise before finding her father. She says she tried to get into the basement, but the door was stuck. She also says she saw a note from Abby asking to visit the neighbors, but the note was never found by anyone else. The note that Lizzie claimed she saw from Abby asking to visit that sick friend. No, I just said that. A reward of $500 was then offered for information about the sick friend's name, who wrote the note, and who delivered it. But nothing ever came from it. Emma had a letter from Lizzie that mentioned a, quote, suspicious man. But Emma threw the letter away. She didn't keep it. And that letter would have added credence to Lizzie's tale about a suspicious character lurking around in the neighborhood. But it was gone. And that's the other thing that makes people suspicious of Lizzie and kind of Emma. The
Yeah.
evidence was lost. The evidence was thrown away. And the truth, it died with them. Because if your sister is innocent, why not keep the letter to prove that there was someone lurking around? It's very,
It's suspicious.
yep. She also told police that she didn't know who killed them. But here's where it gets even more suspicious. Lizzie claimed that she was in the loft of the barn eating peas when her father was killed, but police didn't believe her. There was no one to confirm that that's where she was. She was the only person in the house without a solid confirmed alibi. And here's the thing, the barn was outside. In order to get to the house, she'd have to go right through the front door. But Bridget was right there. Would Bridget have heard her come in? Would she have seen blood on Lizzie's clothes? Lizzie said she was in the barn, but there's no proof. And that's what makes so many people suspicious of Lizzie. The barn alone. Which, could she be lying? Yeah. But she could also be telling the truth.
Yeah.
Her and her stepmother had a strained relationship. Maybe there was an argument between the two. And so she went out to the barn to just get away from her, to be left alone and not have to be near her stepmother. And because the only ones that could confirm that were dead, she wouldn't have an alibi. Lizzie also told police that she found her father first, which that would make sense. He's
If
in
she
the
was in the barn, then she'd have to come through the front door, and there's a sitting room right there.
exactly. So, which means she would have found her father first. Makes total sense.
Mhm.
But the body suggests, though, that Abby was killed 2 hours before Andrew. Lizzie would have had to kill Abby, then wait 2 hours to return and kill Andrew.
I don't see that happening.
Right, because she would have been covered in blood.
And her father would have said, "What the hell?"
Right. So what did she kill her stepmom, go hide out in the barn for 2 hours covered in a bloody dress, and
Yeah, I
then
don't see it.
walk around the house to the front door where everybody could see her
Yeah, I don't see it.
to kill her? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But then Lizzie did burn a dress the day after the murders.
Do you say why?
Yes, we'll get there. Just a second.
Okay.
So the next day, one of Lizzie's friends, Alice Russell, found Lizzie ripping up a dress in her kitchen. Lizzie said the had been covered in paint and she was going to burn it because it was ruined. What else do you do in the late 1800s with ruined clothes?
You burn them.
The dress Lizzie burned was called a Bedford cord. It was a blue cotton dress, very light blue with a darker pattern. Emma said in the trail of the dress, it looked like it was covered in paint. And Lizzie said that she was going to burn it since she got paint all over it. Made sense. However, there was no evidence that Lizzie had been painting that day. But again, it doesn't mean that she's lying.
No.
So, Lizzie went on to burn the dress in the kitchen stove right after learning that she was a suspect. I am not a big believer in coincidences. Anyone that knows me knows that. Huh?
I said, "That's the truth."
However, coincidences do happen.
Yes, they do.
They're just not as common as people think they are. But if you look at the times, it's late 1800s. It very well could just be a coincidence. Maybe she did paint with the dress. Maybe she had painted with it the day before the murder and she just hadn't gotten to it. The fact that she was a suspect, that could be a coincidence. However, it could have been covered in blood. It could be either one. Which one? The truth is not something we'll ever know.
Not in our lifetime, anyway.
And on August 11th, exactly 1 week after the murders, Lizzie was arrested. Now, this is a big thing that people say point to Lizzie's guilt and that she planned to kill at least one of her parents. I don't know if you know this one. Are you ready?
I'm listening.
The day before the murders, Lizzie went to a local drugstore and asked to buy prussic acid. This was a deadly poison. This is also known as rat poison.
Arsenic.
Yeah. So the pharmacist made this claim, right? But Lizzie denied it. She said she was just asking about it to see if they had carried it. The defense claimed it was a case of mistaken identity. But 3 men in the drugstore identified her as the woman who was trying to buy it. The prosecution argued this showed intent, that she was planning something. But the defense got this evidence excluded from the trial, which I think that was the right call.
Right.
The judge said that it was way too prejudicial. But this being out, it still made people very suspicious of her. And you can see why.
Yeah.
However, in the late 1800s, let's be real, there people were dealing with rats, okay? You had outhouses, people weren't very clean and sanitary,
Mm-mm.
okay? This was an issue, and back then, how did you get rid of rats?
Use rat poison.
Exactly. So, was she trying to kill her parents, or was she just asking if they carried rat poison so she could take care of a rat problem? The night before the murders, Lizzie had visited her friend Alice Russell. She talked forebodingly about household activities. She said that she feared poisoning, that her father had enemies, and that she had seen suspicious characters around her family home, saying, quote, "I'm afraid that someone will do something." Alice Russell later told the grand jury about this visit. 2 days later, the grand jury issued an indictment against Lizzie Borden. There was also a mysterious pail of bloody clothes found in the basement. This one most people know. This is a big thing that people say point to Lizzie's guilt. If that pail had contained evidence of a crime scene cleanup, then the person who put the rags there had clearly planned the murder. Gambling on a well known male reluctance to deal with female bodily functions, it may have been a brilliant plan that not only helped clear Lizzie Borden of murder, but left us all still fascinated by a crime that will never truly be solved. So, this pail, they said, was evidence that Lizzie tried to clean up from the murder. However, it is the late 1800s. Lizzie is most definitely a woman that is not prepubescent. During this time, they did not have the female sanitary things that we have today. So, what did they do in the late 1800s when it was that time of the month? They took their, quote unquote sanitary pads,
Use rags
their rags, and they put them in a bucket,
and let
which would then either go outside, or if you had a basement, it went into the basement. And then what did they do with it from there? They cleaned them. And from different things that I have read and watched and heard, that is what Lizzie stated that this bucket of bloody clothing was. She had taken it down to the basement and just hadn't got it clean yet. If you look at the times, her age, obviously, it is highly likely that that's exactly what this was.
more than likely.
Because had she attempted to clean up the crime scene and used that as the cover, there would have been evidence upstairs of a cleanup.
Yeah.
Because whoever, if anyone tried to clean it up, they didn't do a very good job of that at all. So there would have been smear, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the medical examiner closely studied Abby and Andrew's stomachs for poisoning, as Lizzie had been identified as attempting to purchase poison. But the medical examiner found no traces in either of the victims' bodies. So the poisoning theory was ruled out. It was one of those things of either mistaken identity or it was just a coincidence. On August 2nd, Abby visited Mr. Borden, the medical examiner. She suggested that she might have been poisoned, but Dr. Bowen was skeptical.
Heifer wasn't poisoned.
No, she most likely had just come down with some kind of illness. Now, the axe wounds on both victims were brutal. Dr. Bowen said that Andrew was struck 10 or 11 times to the head. He had cuts near his eyes, nose, and ear. He hypothesized that the murderer attacked from behind with great speed. Now, Abby, she had been struck 19 times.
Someone didn't like her.
Right. The killer was extremely methodical. Whoever did it did not stop until both victims were dead. And there was no indication of a struggle or disruption to the room, as I had said, which is very strange. Usually, when someone is attacked in this way, there's chaos. Furniture is overturned, there's signs of some kind of a fight, but that's not what was here. The killer was calm, they were methodical, and they were in complete control. Now, Lizzie's trial began on June 5th, 1893, in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was a national sensation. Newspapers from across the country sent reporters. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse every day. Now, here's what the prosecution argued: Lizzie was the only one who could have committed the crime without being seen. The murders happened inside the house, and the family was home. Lizzie had tried to buy rat poison the day before. She burned a dress that could have had blood on it. She lied about finding the bodies. She benefacted financially. She inherited most of her father's estate. She had a motive. She resented her stepmother and her father was stingy with money, which Lizzie didn't just inherit her father's estate. Her and her sister, because that's the thing that people leave out. Her sister was also got an inheritance. Once their father died, their estate would have went to Abby,
Right.
which then would have went to the girls. But if Abby died first, her estate would go to their father. Then if he was killed, that both estates would have went to them.
Hmm.
Food for thought there. Because had Mr. Borden been killed first, his estate would have went to his wife.
Right.
And then if she was killed, her estate would have went to her family. Because from what I can see, she had no children of her own.
No.
Yeah. Food for thought there. Now, the defense argued that there was no direct evidence that placed Lizzie at the scene. The murder weapon was never found. The hatchets they did find did not match the wounds. Lizzie was a respected Sunday school teacher and a woman of standing. A woman of her class wouldn't commit such a brutal crime, and the timeline didn't add up. She would have had to kill Abby and then wait 2 hours and kill Andrew. And there was no sign of a struggle, which suggests that that it was someone Abby trusted. Abby and Lizzie did not have a very good relationship. Abby was one that suspected Lizzie was stealing and was the one that did the robbery, which then caused Andrew to begin locking their door. So, in other words, Abby would not have trusted Lizzie,
Bunch of shady people.
right? Lizzie's defense lawyer was George Robinson. He was a skilled attorney. He used a very specific strategy. He focused on three things. First, he argued that that the evidence was all circumstantial, and he's not wrong.
No, he's not.
There was no direct evidence pointing to Lizzie's guilt. There were no witnesses, and there was no confession. I don't know if I said that part, so I'm going to re-say that. There wasn't even a quote unquote smoking axe because they never found the murder weapon. Had Lizzie committed the crime, what did she do with it? They would have found an axe somewhere on the Borden property, you would think. She couldn't have got too far with it.
No, because those things are heavy.
You're right, and especially covered in blood with nosy ass neighbors. I mean, back then you didn't have nothing to do but sit on your porch and be nosy.
It's so true.
Second, he argued that Lizzie was a woman of her class. She was educated, respected, and she was a Sunday school teacher. A woman of her standing wouldn't commit such a brutal crime. And back then, during those times, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
And third, he used gender stereotypes. In 1893, women were seen as fragile, delicate, and incapable of violence. Robinson argued that it was physically impossible for Lizzie to have committed the murders. He even ridiculed the theory that Lizzie might have avoided getting blood spots on her clothes by killing her parents while stark naked. And he argued that the evidence against Lizzie was no more than pure suspicion. Now, unusually for the era, Lizzie chose not to testify in her own defense during the trial because back then, most defendants did.
Yeah.
This left the jury without her first hand account of the morning's events. Instead, the case relied entirely on circumstantial evidence and witness testimonies. Some argue that this was a strategic move. Others say that she was too afraid of cross examination. But her silence during this trial only added to the mystery in the end. And the jury believed her lawyer. 1 hour and 10 minutes after closing arguments, they acquitted Lizzie Borden. So the trial began on June 5th, 1893, in New Bedford, Massachusetts. 15 days later, on June 20th, the jury came back with a not guilty verdict. Applause broke out in the courtroom. The jury was all male and all white, a reflection of the 1893 society. Some argue that this influenced the verdict. A woman of Lizzie's class wouldn't commit such a brutal crime, they believe, and that stereotype worked in her favor. However, I don't think that's what influenced the jury, because if you look at it, why wouldn't a jury of all white men convict her? Yeah, sure, back then they didn't believe that women could commit such a brutal crime,
But odds good.
but you have a well known, very wealthy man who has been murdered. Why wouldn't they convict the only suspect, being a woman or not?
I don't know. That one I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, if it was a man, they most likely would have convicted him. But if you look at the fact that she's a white woman, her father is a white, very wealthy man that most likely these jurors all know in some way, why wouldn't they think she was guilty? But maybe it was the stereotypes at the time that did it. Who knows? I think it was more than that, though. But that's just me. Now, during the trial, the prosecution brought something shocking into the courtroom. Are you ready for this?
What?
He brought in the actual skull of Andrew and Abby Borden.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh,
Medical experts who were brought to stand used them to demonstrate how a hatchet blade that had been found in the basement aligned with the wounds. Yeah. This was a gruesome display that left the courtroom in silence, but it still wasn't enough to convince the jury. Now, just because, as we all know, just because Lizzie was acquitted doesn't mean that the public believed she was innocent. In Fall River, Lizzie was ostracized. People whispered she was never invited to social events and she was watched. After this, she and Emma sold their father's home on 92 2nd Street and moved into a Platel home called Maplecroft. It was 7 bedrooms, 6 fireplaces, and it sat on a hill overlooking the town. But Lizzie didn't just move, she changed her name. She started calling herself Lizbeth A. Borden, a name that felt adult and regal, one that was worthy of her father's wealth and legacy. She and Emma bought Maplecroft on the Hill, an upscale community in Fall River, but she didn't live there. She lived in seclusion. She avoided those in high society. She fed birds and squirrels in her backyard. She even anonymously engaged in charitable work, giving back to the very community that had turned their backs on her. Throughout the last 34 years of Lizzie's life following the trial, she never spoke to the public about the case. Even though she did have numerous requests for interviews, she never gave a single one. And she never commented on anything and never explained the events that haunted her life for the last 34 years of it. Much in the same manner as they continue to haunt the New England community centuries later, after the trial, Lizzie and Emma inherited their father's charitable fortune, which is estimated to be between $700 and $800,000 in 1893 money.
that's a whole lot of money.
You want to know what it is today?
Am I gonna have a stroke?
Probably. That would be somewhere between 20 and $25 million today.
Damn.
Yeah. A good portion of that, around 300,000, was spent on Maplecroft. She lived very comfortably for the rest of her life, and she never had to work or struggle. And what seems to make people very suspicious because they got to live the life that their father wouldn't let them have. She benefited from the deaths. But what people forget, so did her sister.
Yeah.
Lizzie lived like a wealthy woman for those last 34 years. But there's another chapter in the Borden family history. Several years before her parents received their wax, still heard all over the world today. Lizzie's aunt, Eliza Borden, murdered three of her children before taking her own life in the very same home where Andrew and Abby had met their grisly end.
Dang.
So, this family history of violence adds just another layer to the mystery. Some say it was inherited, some say it was a curse, but that's something that we'll never know.
No, because we weren't there,
Nope.
and they all gone.
Now, Eliza Borden's crimes were even more brutal than the deaths of Mr. and Mrs. Borden. She drowned all three of her children in a well before taking her own life. This became known as the Children in the Well tragedy, and the trauma stayed with the Borden family for generations.
All I can say, damn.
In 1927, Emma herself passed away. Then, only a few months later, on June 1st, Lizzie died at her age of 67 from pneumonia. Back then,
Yeah, they didn't have.
they lived. That was old.
Yeah.
Emma died the same day that she fell and broke her hip.
Mm.
Or no, sorry, I read that wrong. Emma fell and broke her hip, and then 8 days later, she died. But the thing is, Lizzie and Emma weren't close anymore at the time of their deaths. They had been estranged, and they had been estranged for a long time. In fact, Lizzie had updated her will 16 months before she died, and she left her sister, Emma, absolutely nothing. That's how estranged they were.
Mm-mm-mm.
Of the estate, which was estimated to be worth $265,000, Emma got nothing, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
They had lived together for 30 years, and somewhere along that road, they became estranged. Some say it was because Emma knew too much. Some say it was because Emma was angry about how Lizzie had handled the inheritance. We'll never know. Both girls were buried at the family burial plot in Oak Grove Cemetery in Fall River. 2 years later, the new residents of her home stumbled upon a mysterious hammer beneath the barn door. This cost Bristol County $200 to determine that this hammer was not the murder weapon. Yeah. But the discovery shows just how the mystery keeps going. Even after Lizzie died, people were still looking for answers, still searching for evidence, and still trying to solve the case. But that truth, what really happened, possibly died with her. Now, the house where the murders happened, what happened to it? It is now known as the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast at 232nd Street, America's most haunted house. It serves as an inn, allowing guests to stay in the room where Abby's body was discovered, the guest bedroom. By day, visitors can explore the museum where artifacts and the true story behind the murders are revealed. House tours are offered between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. daily. And the last 90 minutes, ghost hunts take place on the first floor of the basement. And more than 133 years after the shocking murders, patrons, staff, and ghost hunters still report chilling encounters inside that home. From unexplained footsteps to shadowy figures, the house's history and atmosphere make it a hot spot for ghostly activity. The Lizzie Borden House regularly hosts special events, including reenactments, photo ops, and haunted story nights. And tourists still come from all around the world to see the place where the Borden murders happened. They want to know the truth.
You know, there's sick people there. They are.
I want to go to the Lizzie Borden house so bad. I don't know about spending the night. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about that one, but I want to go really bad.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Why not?
Look, this house is haunted enough, number 2.
Just like I want to go to Salem and the Velisca house.
You have fun with
Yep, I want to go to the Velisca house. That's only a few hours from here. We covered that one.
that. Absolutely.
The Velisca murders, that is the oldest cold case here. Happened in 1912. Yeah. Anyway, sorry guys. They want to see if the Borden home is truly haunted, and they want to solve the mystery. But the truth, we'll never know. It could have died with Lizzie, and the mystery will remain unsolved. Those are two things that has never changed and are never going to. We're going to move to your favorite thing of this whole story, this whole case,
Okay.
the rhyme.
Oh,
Most people have heard it.
Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
shoot, that's been around forever.
But it's not accurate.
Oh, well, I figured that.
The Bordens actually received 29 whacks total, not 81. And Abby wasn't Lizzie's mother, she was her stepmother. But true or not, the rhyme stuck, and it has now become a part of American folklore. By the early 20th century, the rhyme was known across America. Plays were written, movies were made.
There was a really good movie with, Elizabeth Montgomery, she plays Lizzie Borden. That was really good, but
Was
it
it?
showed her acquitted and stuff, yeah.
Ooh.
It was really good.
Lizzie had been transcended. Lizzie had transcended fact to become legend. The new episode, Monstrous, the Netflix show,
Mhm.
the newest season is Lizzie Borden. I'm so excited. I gotta finish the Menendez brothers. I started that one. I gotta finish that one. And then I've gotta do Jeffrey Dahmer. I did watch the Ed Gein one. That's the one I started with. So good. I can't remember his name, but the guy who played Ed Gein, oh my god, he did such an amazing job. Yep, you'll have to watch those so we'll have to watch Lizzie Borden together. I've got so much shit going on. I haven't been able to watch the other 2 yet. Okay. So did Lizzie Borden do it?
I don't think so.
Here are the main theories because there's a lot out there. These are the main ones that I found, okay? And we're going to go through them and we're either going to debunk them or we're going to agree with them. One of the two. So theory 1, Lizzie did it alone. She hated her stepmother. She resented her father for being stingy and controlling. She had no alibi. She lied about key details. She burned a dress that might have had blood on it. She benefited from the deaths. She tried to buy prussic acid days before. But what debunks this one? And I feel like we've kind of went through that the entire time. There's no direct evidence placing Lizzie at the scene. That means inside the home when they were killed. No blood splatter on her clothes was ever found. The murder weapon was never found. And in 1893, the defense argued that it was physically impossible for a woman of her class to commit such a brutal crime, a gender stereotype that actually worked in her favor. But still, historians lean towards this one because no other suspect fits the evidence better than she does. I think that's just simply because they didn't find they didn't find another suspect. She was the only one home. She made sense, and that's who they zeroed in on, which is also known as
Stupidity?
tunnel vision. A little bit of both, I guess. Then we have theory 2. Emma did it, either with or without Lizzie. Emma was close to Lizzie, but she was also resentful of Abby. Both sisters benefited financially, which is something people forget. But here's what debunks this one. Emma was at home. She was visiting friends when the murders happened. There's no evidence that Emma was involved. Her steady
There's
testimony,
no evidence she wasn't.
right? Just because it doesn't show that she was doesn't mean that she actually wasn't. Her steady testimony during the trial actually helped Lizzie's case. And in 1905, Emma had left Riverfall to start a new life in New Hampshire, suggesting that she wasn't hiding anything. But on the other hand, her leaving could suggest that she was hiding something. That could have been why the sisters became estranged. Maybe Lizzie found out or figured out that Emma did it, and she was angry at her. Then we have theory 3, an intruder did it. Someone broke in, killed Abby and Andrew, and then left. The 1891 robbery suggests that someone was in fact watching the house. Maybe it was the same person that committed that robbery. But there were no signs of forced entry. No feet print were found. Nothing was disturbed in the home. Everyone was home. The maid, neighbors were close. An intruder would have been seen by Bridget, and no intruder had ever been identified. the lack of forced entry, no disturbed belongings, all of these things that I just listed makes an intruder theory, makes an intruder unlikely, but not impossible. Maybe an intruder came in and didn't realize people were home and they had to kill the people that were home so they didn't get in trouble. How many times have we seen that?
Yeah.
Theory number 4 is that killer was hired to kill the Bordens. Someone Lizzie hired someone to kill her parents. Andrew had enemies. Lizzie mentioned seeing suspicious characters around the house. This one's highly possible. But again, there was no evidence that anyone could have been hired. There was no money trail, no motive for an outsider to kill both victims, or so they say. Because how many times has the husband or the wife done something? Someone came in to kill them and their spouse went with them simply because they were home. Lizzie wasn't in the house. The maid was asleep. It's possible that whoever killed them just didn't know they were home as well. This one, I think, is a pretty good theory, in my opinion.
I'm listening.
Yep, I think this one's a good one. Da, da, da. Okay. No one. Moving on. No one had ever had connected with Lizzie through financial records without any evidence of payment or coordination. The theory has no foundation. Now, granted, I do not think Lizzie hired someone to kill her parents, but it's possible that this was some kind of a hit.
Anything's possible.
And the only reason why the maid and Lizzie lived is because the killer didn't know they were home. Okay. Theory 5. This was an accident that had gotten out of hand.
How could
Maybe,
it be an accident?
right. I know this one's stupid. It
Would
doesn't
they
make any sense to
fall?
me.
Dude, fall on their.
I'm, get, I'm gonna ready to explain it, but this one makes absolutely no sense to me. Maybe Lizzie and Abby had gotten into a fight. Lizzie struck Abby, then panicked, and then killed Andrew. But, and that's a huge but, the 2-hour gap between the murders does not fit the accident theory.
I don't think it was too. I don't think. See, back in those days, it was harder to
Right.
determine
Right.
a lot of that time stuff. So, but I don't think it was 2 hours. I think whoever did come in and do it, it was somebody from the outside.
They were there when Andrew got home.
They were there when she went upstairs
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
and killed her. But see, the thing is, though, why didn't she scream?
It's believed because they were hit from behind.
Then he was hiding behind the door.
So whoever did it, Abby wouldn't have seen them based off of what we have from back then anyway. They s- they say it was 2 hours. How long it actually was, we don't truly know because like you said, they didn't know everything that we know today to be able to tell time of death.
Right.
It being hot, no AC, things like that, that would have sped up decomp to make it look like they had been dead longer than they actually had been.
Yep. And back in those days, they didn't have air conditioners and stuff like
Right.
we do now.
Right. And Abby was upstairs, heat rises. She would have decomposed a lot faster than Andrew would have. But so that 2-hour window frame is very iffy. The thing that does it for me, okay, that says this was definitely not an accident where Lizzie or even Maggie or Emma just got into an argument with Abby and became angry and just hit her because they were mad, is the fact that Abby was hit 19 times.
Somebody had a lot of rage against her.
Right. The intent was for her to die. This was not an accident. And the same with Andrew. He was hit 10 or 11 times. There was intent there by whoever did it. And these numbers are that time frame. Today now we know there's in a killing like this, there's crossover. So they may not have even been hit that many times.
Yeah.
That's what does this theory for me. There was no way it was an accident and she got hit 19 times and he got hit 10 or 11. There's absolutely no way. Not only that, there's no signs of a struggle. The killer stayed calm and controlled throughout the entire thing. An accident, it would not have been that way. this would not have been as clean as it was, for lack of a better term. My opinion, whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew how to do it and get away with it.
And he's home.
Okay, good.
She called, and
Oh, okay.
I sent her a message, let her know we were recording. She wanted to let me know she was I asked her if she was okay. She goes, "Yes, I am home, and call me when you get done."
Okay, good. So, the accident theory is out for me. That one's that one's
Yeah,
out
that
for me.
don't that what they do, smack each other in the head
Yeah,
playing
it doesn't
hopscotch
make
or something,
yeah, it
come
doesn't
on.
make any sense to me. I don't think Lizzie did it. I'm fully in the camp that Lizzie did not do this.
Yeah, I don't think she did either. I think it was her sister.
Um,
But
that
then
one
again, he did have a lot of enemies, so
exactly. I think it was let's get through the theory. Let's finish the theories and then we'll talk about what we think. Okay? 'Cause someone else in town did it. That's theory number 6. The robberies in 1891 suggest that someone was watching the home. As you just said, enemies had or Andrew had many enemies in his very own community.
yeah.
But there's no concrete suspects that were ever identified, even to this day. Police never found evidence pointing to anyone. No one else was ever charged. Lizzie was the only person they ever tried or charged for this. And after over 130 years, no new suspects have ever emerged.
Well, all the DNA and everything's gone now,
Right.
so
Right.
they couldn't.
But they have done extensive investigations since then. They've never identified anyone. Then we have theory number 7, which I had never heard until I sat down and dug into it for this episode. Uncle John Morris did it. John Morris was Andrew's brother in law, his first wife's brother. He was the first person that gave his inquest testimony to District Attorney Hausa Knowlton after
He
the
was jealous
suspicious murders.
that he didn't get any of the money.
In his court testimony, he recalled every detail with remarkable precision. He had a relationship with Abby, and he had a motive: Andrew's money.
I
Lizzie
just
and
said
Emma were his nieces, and he didn't want them to be left destitute. He had access to the house the night before the murders as well,
so he could have hidden the house.
because they were his sister's children. If Andrew died, all of his stuff went to his wife, not his daughters.
Oh, unless he had a will,
Right.
which if he was such a businessman, he would have. But there's no
And
mention of any will.
no, I've never found anything. And in his will, he could have left everything to his wife.
But I think he did take care of his children too.
And John Morris didn't want his nieces to be left with nothing.
That's 'cause he didn't want to take care of them.
What debunks this one is John Morris had a convenient alibi. He was out of town when the murders happened. There's no hard evidence linking him to the crime. He was never charged. And despite the suspicion on him, he was ruled out as a suspect from pretty early on.
Well, yeah, if you're out of town when they happened, it's kinda hard to do that.
Now, his alibi is hard to overcome because there is no proof debunking it. But from what I could tell, his alibi is just his word, from what I can see. However, for many people, he still remains a suspect. In my opinion, he's a pretty good one. Then we have the poisoning theory. I don't believe this one either.
Uh,
Like I said earlier, days before the murder, the entire Borden family had fell ill. Some of it was food poisoning from old mutton that had been served for dinner. Food poisoning was very common back in these days. So was just general illness. Okay. They were not clean people in the late 1800s. Andrew was poisoned. Abby was poisoned. And even Lizzie had been left sick. On August 2nd, Abby had visited Dr. Bowen. She suggested that she may have been poisoned by an actual poison, but the doctor was skeptical. And then a day or two before the killings, Andrew had come home early, still not feeling well. Lizzie was making whispers to friends about her worry that something bad was going to happen to her father only a day before he was murdered. Lizzie had tried to buy rat poison the day before, according to a pharmacist, but here's what definitively says this did not happen. Because one, Lizzie got sick as well. Why the fuck would she poison herself? if her goal is to kill her dad and stepmom? That makes no sense. You poison yourself, you take the chance of killing yourself as well. Then, the medical examiner found no traces of poison in either of the victim's stomach. That right there gets rid of it.
Yeah.
The autopsy ruled it out completely. The old mutton and the illness, they were real. It wasn't murder. They were actually sick from eating bad food. So the poisoning theory medically is ruled out, but many people still believe that that's what happened. Then we have theory 9, which this one's a good one. I like this one. The maid, Bridget Sullivan, also known as Maggie, did it.
Yeah, but what does she have to gain?
Bridget was an Irish immigrant maid who worked for the Bordens. She was in the house that morning. She had access and she had motive. She was frustrated with her working conditions. Lizzie was known for faking illness to avoid family dinners, especially with her stepmother. Some say that Maggie was angry about the way that she was treated. She claimed that she was cleaning windows during the murder, a statement that Lizzie did support. But in turn, she testified in Lizzie's favor, insisting that everyone was fine in the Borden household, a claim that was said evidently proven to be false.
I don't know. There's too many players.
Now, what gets rid of this one? Bridget was never charged, obviously. She left Fall River after the murders and started a new life somewhere. I don't know how much it debunks it, though, my opinion. She leaves right after. Is she running away? So she's not a suspect? But then again, maybe she just didn't want to be around. She had no reason to stay. Could go either way. There's no hard evidence that links her to the crime, but there's no hard evidence that links anyone to it.
Mm-mm.
And if Bridget had done it, she would have been blamed due to nativism, Irish immigrants who faced discrimination. But the police never suspected her. Sorry, she would have been a suspect to me. She was literally in the house when Mr. and Mrs. Borden were killed. But according to her, she heard nothing.
Well, it depends on what part of the house she was in. Some of those houses were big, Terry.
So, from my understanding, from what I've read, this was a small house. Mr. Borden was very frugal with his money. He did not live this, I mean, he wouldn't even put indoor plumbing into their home when every other house in the neighborhood had it. He was a very, very, very frugal man. That's one reason why he had so much money, because he didn't just blow it like everybody else did. So,
I'm sorry, I put it in plumbing.
me too. How I don't understand how she could not have heard something in the house. Maggie's room was downstairs, from my understanding of the layout of the house. Maggie was downstairs. Mr. Borden was in the living room. Abby was upstairs. Abby, she may not have heard anything because it was upstairs, but how did she not hear anything with Mr. Borden?
A pretty good sized house.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe the room, her bedroom was on the complete opposite side of the sitting room. I'm not sure. It's just odd to me. You know what I mean? It's very, very strange. You don't hear the door open. You don't hear anybody go upstairs. You don't hear Abby fall and hit the floor. Very odd to me. In my opinion, there's a few good suspects in this one. I mean, they said that Lizzie was the only one home. She was the only suspect they could find, but that's not true at all. Lizzie was outside in the barn. She wasn't in the house. The only one in the house was Maggie. Why was Maggie never a suspect?
Can't answer that, dear.
It's odd, isn't it? It's a good one. Moving on. Some historians suggest that the only reason why Maggie testified in Lizzie's favor was to maintain her employment and avoid suspicion because they never charged her or seriously suspected her. But she left shortly after, so she didn't keep her employment anyway.
Maybe she felt like she couldn't.
Maybe. Now, there are some fringe theories. There are some other ideas that have been floated around over the years, but they're much weaker than these ones that I mentioned. So that's why I didn't go into those ones. Modern researcher Carolyn Moore suggested that a visitor named Mackenzie may have been involved, but there's no motive, means, or opportunity presented with that. It's just nothing but speculation. Some suggest that Dr. Bowen, the medical examiner, did it because he had access to the house, but that doesn't even make sense. He
No,
went to
that
the
definitely don't make sense.
he went to the home to do his job. Others have suggested a servant conspiracy, but the only servant in the house that morning was Bridget. So that one doesn't make sense. These fringe ideas are interesting, but they don't hold any weight. They're essentially urban legends. One thing that makes people suspicious is how tight the timeline is. So it's definitely someone that was either in the home or that was watching the home. No doubt about that. Abby was killed somewhere between 9 and 9:30 in the morning. Andrew was then killed, according to their timeline, around 11:15 that morning. That is less than a full 2 hours between the two murders. For an intruder to break in, kill Abby, and then wait 2 hours and kill Andrew, then leave without being seen is nearly impossible. The only one not home was Emma. The maid was inside the house. Neighbors were close by. An intruder would have been seen, right? Lizzie was inside the barn. She would have been seen had she come from the barn back into the house.
Yeah.
She did have access, she did have time, and no confirmed alibi. But neither did Abby, or not Abby, neither did Maggie. And Maggie was already in the home. We'll never know what truly happened. What we do know for certain is Lizzie was the prime suspect. According to detectives, she lied about key details. She burned a dress that could have had blood on it. She benefited from the death. No one was ever charged. The murder weapon was never found. Lizzie was acquitted, but she was never forgiven. What we don't know is who actually swung the axe. Why was Abby killed first? Where the where the murder weapon went? Whether Lizzie actually did it, and did she act alone? Or did someone else do it entirely? So what do most historians and true crime experts believe? They lean towards that Lizzie did it alone. And here's why. She had the strongest motive, financial gain and resentment towards Abby. However, so did her sister. She had no alibi during the critical 2 hour window. Neither did Maggie. She lied about key details, the note, the basement, finding the bodies, according to them. Because if she was in the barn, she would have found her father first. According to investigators, she lied about that and she found Abby first. Makes no sense. She burned a dress that could have had blood on it, but it could have also been paint, like she said. She tried to buy rat poison the day before. She says that she was asking about it. Late 1800s, there was a rat problem everywhere. So she could have been telling the truth. Her story kept changing. Back then, any small detail that was different, you were considered lying because you were changing your story. However, we know today that traumatic things like this, sometimes you forget the little detail and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you remember it. Doesn't mean you're lying. Most witnesses said that Lizzie acted strangely after the murders. Wouldn't you act strange if you found your father hacked to death too?
Well, yeah.
Right. Now, everything we have is circumstantial. We've went through that. Most people say that the only reason why she was found innocent was because it was an all white, all male jury and gender stereotypes influenced it. That could be true. However, it
It
may
just
not
wasn't
be.
so strong enough evidence.
That's what, right. Even today, there's nothing. In today's world, she wouldn't have even been taken to trial.
No.
The mystery here has lasted for over 130 years, and it will continue to be a mystery. The legend that followed is that Lizzie Borden became a cultural icon. She's been portrayed in plays, movies, books, TV shows, and even today, she continues to appear in things. Like I mentioned, the new season of Monster is about Lizzie Borden. She was the villain, and she was the villain who got away. Everyone bites at that. In 1904, there was a play called The Despicable, and it was performed in Fall River, and it was based on Lizzie Borden. Lizzie's family then sued and got the place shut down. In 1975, a movie called Lizzie Borden, starring Elizabeth Montgomery, which I think that was the one you mentioned, right?
Yep.
It was one of the first major TV movies about the Lizzie Borden case. In 2014, a movie called Lizzie Borden Took an Act, starring Christina Ricci, and it was one of the most recent major portrayals. The rhyme, that's still known today. It's still recited, and it has become a part of American folklore. But we'll never know what truly happened. It died with her and everyone else
Yeah.
that was a part of this case. That's what makes this one so haunting. She was a wealthy woman, it was a brutal crime, and a verdict of not guilty. And it is a mystery that has lasted for over 130 years, which in the end, that's what we're all about. We cover the stories that need to be told, the ones that make you feel and think, the ones that remind us that sometimes the truth is never found. And that's it. That's our coverage on Lizzie Borden. What do you think?
I don't think she did it.
I don't think so either.
My gut instincts tell me that she didn't.
She was an easy target. She was an easy scapegoat,
Yeah.
basically. That's what I think. Yeah. I lean more towards Maggie and that it was a hit. That's what
I think Maggie was paid to do it.
I think it was one of those, or it was a hit and Maggie was involved. Those are my 3.
Makes some sense.
Because if it was a hit, Lizzie was in the barn.
And Maggie knew that.
Maggie was asleep. According to her, Maggie was asleep. So this is my first theory. Maggie was asleep. If it was a hit, whoever did the hit wouldn't have known that either of them were there.
Right.
I think personally, the target was Abby. I don't think that they were killed 2 hours apart. I think it was one and then the other right after. I think the killer was already in the house. And when the killer came downstairs after killing Abby, Mr. Borden was home, so they had no choice but to kill him as well.
Collateral damage.
Yep. Abby and or Maggie and Lizzie survived because the killer didn't know they were there. We've seen it before. My second one is that it was a robbery gone wrong because we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And my third one is that it was a hit and Maggie was involved in it.
You just said that.
No, the first one, Maggie wasn't involved. She was just asleep, and the intruder didn't know she was there. That is very possible. But what makes me think that she could have potentially been involved is she left town shortly after. Why wouldn't she stay with the girls and continue to work with for them?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't
Mhm.
know.
Those are some good ones. That's what I think. What do you think?
They're mind thinking.
Right. I don't think either of the Borden girls were involved.
I don't either.
No.
I mean, they have really had the most game,
Oh yeah. They had
but I
major
don't think
motive. They did have a falling out, which could point to one knew something,
or the other.
right? But I don't think they were involved. I truly don't.
I don't think so either.
Yep, that's it. That's that one. It's a pretty good one, huh?
Yep.
Okay. Guys, that is it. That's what we have for your bonus. If you want to hear more cases like this, let me know. Send us your case suggestions. We have a whole list. Everyone that gets sent, I added to that list.
You gotta
Uh
keep grandma busy.
if you have any of your own stories that you want read on the podcast, just shoot them over in our email, which is in our episode description. We'll compile all those once we have enough to do a bonus episode. We'll put them all in a bonus. Maybe we'll do that maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks, depending on how many we get. That'll be fun. Uh, if you haven't already, make sure you're following the podcast. You have your downloads turned on. We have a lot of fun, exciting things coming. I can't tell you yet, but we have a lot of fun, exciting things happening over here. Those will be coming out in bonus episode form, and you don't want to miss those. So make sure those downloads are on so it automatically gets downloaded and you can hear it whether you have service and internet connection or not. If you want pictures for these episodes or to get our little tidbits and hints at what's coming, make sure you're following us on TikTok and on Facebook. You can find both of those links through our link tree, which is in the episode description. Our full episode on the Alaskan Triangle is already out, so check that out. Please give us a rate and a review. Those little things, I know it's a pain. Most of us don't do it, but for independent podcasts like ours, it helps us a ton. And it also tells the algorithm where to put us so new listeners can find us. And that's all I got for this bonus episode, guys. You got anything else?
Not me.
All right. Everybody send love to Aunt Debbie. And Debbie had a fall today and she was in the hospital. She's home now.
Yes.
Trying to think of
Send her all your prayers.
I'm trying to think. I can't get my words to come out. She's back home from the hospital. She's fine, resting. She's obviously in pain. She hit her head hit pretty hard. So everybody send her love, thoughts, and prayers. She gets better very soon. And that's all we got.
That's all I got.
All right. So guys, make sure you remember to
Watch out for monsters.
and don't kill people. And we'll see y'all next time. Bye y'all.
Bye, y'all.